whether it's going to be reduced spring training or just pushing that start. Yeah, exactly. They're going to do the same thing now. We'll ship it. But the ones that started in the first place, they would grade saving these levels and everything like that, so we can go around for it as well. So I think they'll probably have a lot of people in the
Good evening. It is my pleasure to call the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting for February 22nd, 2021 to order. Would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Kloss? Here. Dr. Rankin?
Here.
Mr. Walther?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Ross?
Here. President
Shaw?
Here.
7 present, 0 absent.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Announcements. Board members have announcements. Do you want to start? Vice President Wilson.
Congratulations to Peoria High School students Makia Britton, Zoe Cassie, Jair Evans, Clarice Gates, and Ella Van Kuren, who have been chosen as participants in the Peoria Art Guild's 2020-2021 Mentor Apprenticeship Program. Each student won a $600 scholarship for the program. The 16-week program pairs high school, junior, and senior apprentices with professional, established mentor artists who work in diverse mediums. Cassie, Gates, and Kieran are preparatory school for the art students.
And we'll work this way. Mrs. Costick.
Good evening. Summer school. Peoria Public Schools will have a robust summer programming for all students from June the 7th through July the 16th, 2021, from 8:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Parents will have the opportunity to select one or both 3-week sessions. Please contact your principal for more information. Thank you.
Dr. Rankin.
5 essential surveys. The parent and teacher components of the 5 essential survey are now open. Links to the surveys are on the district website. The 5 essential survey measures 5 factors necessary for a successful school: effective leadership, collaborative teachers, involved families, supportive environment, and ambitious instruction. Parents, if you have students in more than one school, you can complete the survey for each student. Peoria Public Schools needs the feedback from parents and guardians to help each student reach their fullest academic potential.
Thank you. Mrs. Ross.
Yes. BH 365, Black Student Forum. Richwoods High School freshman Michaela Young will participate in an international virtual Black Student Forum as part of the BH 365 curriculum on Tuesday, February 23rd at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time. The public is invited to view the forum. Links are posted to the district's website and social media.
Thank you, Mr. Klaus.
Peoria Public Schools will receive extra food boxes on Thursday, February 25th. Boxes contain a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, dairy products, and meat products. Boxes will be distributed during regular meal distribution times. K through 8, 10 to 1. High schools, 10:30 to 1:30.
Mr. Waller.
Yes, Richwood speech team members compete in IHSA finals. 2 members of the Richwoods High School speech team competed in the IHSA state finals this weekend. Sophie Senior, Lily Murrah advanced to the finals in impromptu speaking. Murrah has been a member of the RHS speech team for 4 years. Junior, Sarah Allen, competed in the informative speaking event. She presented an original 8-minute expository speech on a subject of current interest. This is Allen's 3rd year on the speech team. Richwood's high school speech team, coached by health occupations teacher Alyssa Emilianson, has advanced to the state finals every year for over 15 years. On a historical footnote, Woodruff High School won the state title for speech in 1966. Just a little add-on there.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Walder. I have a few. First, I would like to acknowledge the bulletin boards on my right by the Knoxville Center and on my left by Valeska Hinton. Thank you. And second, I am honored to announce that Church Women United will be donating $4,000 for the new Peoria Public Schools Foundation Board Scholarship for senior students at our high schools. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank Church Women United for their tremendous generosity towards our students. And if it pleases the board, I would like to invite them to make a presentation for that award at a future meeting. The PPS Foundation Scholarship, and before I go on, did you have any words you'd like to say?
I don't. I think it was a very kind gesture from that organization, and it's really. I think it's a fine gesture from that organization, and I look forward to providing for students with that, along with the board, with the scholarship and the $1,000. So that was awesome.
And that, to refresh everyone's memory, that is 1 per high school, and including career center. So it is a total of 4,000, 1 per school. The PPS Foundation Scholarship deadline. Seniors, this is a reminder that there are just 6 days left to apply for the Peoria Public School Foundation College Scholarships. Applications are due Monday, March 1st. Please speak with your counselor for information on the PPS Foundation Scholarships. And I have one more announcement. If I can bring it up. It is my distinct honor to make this congratulatory announcement tonight. Dr. Karat, could you please make your way to the podium at this time? And would the members of her administrative team who are present in the room please join Dr. Karat at the podium, please? I know some of them are connected virtually through audio and/or video.
I'm like, it's not time for me to present yet, but I do have my presentations.
Thank you. This month, Dr. Karat was honored by Illinois State Treasurer Mike Frericks as part of an effort to highlight and celebrate the achievements of African American leaders in Illinois during Black History Month. She is one of 8 such leaders recognized for this honor. Dr. Karat was awarded for her outstanding commitment in education. She also participated in a virtual interview with the state treasurer, talking about her career and highlights of her work with Peoria Public Schools. State Treasurer Frericks said that we are proud to celebrate Black History Month and honor the unsung heroes doing impactful work quietly within their communities. So 1 second. On behalf of the Board of Education, Vice President Wilson, and myself, I would like to congratulate you on this well-deserved honor.
Thank you so much. I was not expecting that, but I'll say, actually, this was all about celebrating and recognizing Peoria Public Schools and the amazing work that's happening there. I was told they love the direction that we're heading in terms of all of the progressive work we're doing, the work that happened during COVID, and I'm usually not speechless, but it's really appropriate to have my team stand right beside me because this is actually a team effort, and not just Dr. Ike and Dr. Wilson and Dr. Bond and Dr. Bell and Dr. Wood and Dr. G and Miss Marlin and Dr. Botts, but also our teachers, the work of really everyone, all of the educators in Peoria Public Schools. I would say that we are really in a good place as a district. We have an amazing group of educators that are really dedicated to the district realizing the vision, which is inspiring, educating, and preparing all of our kids to really have a successful life and to be contributing members of society. And that's what this is all about. This group and a lot of others out in the field, our principals, they're just really dedicated, and they're working very, 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 very hard. We're passionate about our work, and we thank our board for, providing guidance, providing feedback, and we're really in a good place. And I would say in closing that this is not about me, but it's about Peoria Public Schools and the work that all of the educators. And so I'm just really happy to be a cheerleader for Peoria Public Schools, to share ideas and to continue to inspire and motivate as we continue with the work. We still have a lot of work to do, but I remember that parent saying there's a lot of amazing things happening in Peoria Public Schools, and the public needs to know. So again, thank you, board. Thank you, President Shaw. Thank you, Vice President Wilson, and all of the board members. Thank you. And thank you, team. I love you guys. You're an amazing team. And Chief, Ms. Hammer, Mr. Collins, Mr. Brook, and many, many, many others.
I did want to read one comment from your team. When members of Dr. Karat's senior leadership team learned about this special honor, they showed their delight and pride for Dr. Karat by saying, "This award essentially confirms what the district already knows about Dr. Karat, that she is a tireless champion for the education of Peoria students." The cabinet gathered around you in a show of their gratitude for this award. Is gathered around you for the gratitude, to show their gratitude, for this award and your important work. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you. We don't do it for the award, so.
Definitely.
It's a little embarrassing. It's like, okay, another distraction. Let's keep working, please. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I just, guys, one more second. So President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, the rest of the board, thank you for allowing Cabinet to add its voice to yours in congratulating Dr. Karat. We, of course, have a link to the electronic magazine of the Illinois Association of School Administrators, and I wanted us to flip through. It was quite a spread, 6 pages, well, including the cover page and the table of contents. So I just wanted us to scroll through real quickly. This is the table of contents, as you can see. Hers is the biggest one on there, and then with the title, the question and answers by that professional organization. So with that, the entire cabinet thanks you and congratulates you. Congratulations again.
Thank you. You're a great team. Thank you.
We now have a district presentation on, it is the balanced calendar update. We have Mr. Collins and Dr. Wilson.
Thank you, President Shaw. And I just wanted to tee it up for the team. I asked them if I could just make a few remarks quickly regarding this process and why we're going through this process. And I'm not involved with the committee, so the committee, they've been commissioned to explore this work. And, as we continue to think about our work and the progress that we're making and what we have gone through regarding this pandemic, there's an opportunity for us. And so I've been thinking a lot about this for many months now. So as I tee this up, this is all about developing a year-long calendar structure that supports additional student opportunities to learn and providing continuity throughout the 12 months. So, why do we even have to tamper or meddle with what we currently have? And so I'll get to the why in a moment. But so the balanced calendar is one strategy for our community to establish. And there are other options besides the balanced calendar. The option of lengthening the school day, that's an option. Summer school, which needs, I would say, we will also be doing summer school. We need more, our kids need more instructional time. Before and after school is another option. Longer school year, that's another option. And then even school on weekends. So, and so this is all about trying to figure out ways to provide additional instructional time to our students. So again, the why, like with everything that we do, it's like, why? What is the why? Why are we doing it? Why even we're wasting our community's time and our staff time and your time, because many of you are on these committees. And it is, the why is to impact student learning, ensuring that all students are meeting grade level proficiency and mastering the content. The why is to provide academic supports, academic enrichment opportunities, and even rest as it relates to the balanced calendar. And then the why also is to provide a continuation of routines and classroom practices throughout the year. So I always like to start with why, and I just kind of wanted to tee it up for Dr. Wilson and Mr. Collins as they continue with the presentation. So thank you, Board.
Good evening, President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, and Board of Education, and Dr. Karat. So after Dr. Karat shared the why, we have been here before, and as promised, we are making another update. And this update is work that's been accomplished since the last time I was up here, which was January 25th. So what we will be sharing with you is the work that we've been doing. So as a reminder, this is our Superintendents Charge. Is the Balanced Calendar Committee will revisit the feasibility of providing a balanced calendar schedule starting with the 22-23 school year to address COVID-19 learning loss and to accelerate learning. So that continues to guide our work. As a reminder, what does a balanced calendar look like? What is it we're talking about? On the left-hand side, we can see the traditional calendar, which is what we're experiencing and have for several years, longer summer vacation, and differences of learning opportunities throughout the year broken up by different levels of breaks. On the right-hand side is the modified or a more balanced calendar. There's several options, but this one shows the 45-15 model. And you can see that the school is the regular session learning days are balanced with the breaks of 45 days of learning and then 15 days of a break, or what we call intersession. So what have we been up to? We have 3 committees that are working to gather all of the concerns and develop solutions. There were over 120 concerns, barriers, roadblocks, whatever you want to call them, that we gathered from a variety of stakeholders. We took those 120 concerns and we grouped them into categories and aligned them with the subcommittees. And as you can see, as a reminder, the subcommittees are building and grounds, athletics, student achievement, finance, staffing, and community. The three committees work in tandem. They have been meeting weekly, so we've had a lot of meetings. The core team is really to establish the framework and kind of develop the process, but the impact representatives also are part of a subcommittee, but they're a separate committee as well. And what's important about that committee, actually all of them are important, but I should say what's unique is it's 22 people and they represent a variety of stakeholders that they are, like I said, aligned to the subcommittee and they're a separate committee. And on that impact committee is our ROE superintendent, PFT and 6099 leaders, Board of Education members, athletic directors for middle school and high school, community members, Peoria Public School Foundation, district administration from finance, special ed, EL, curriculum, SEL, and building and grounds. The subcommittees, there are over 62 representatives that represent the same kind of population, additional teachers and non-certified staff, family members. We have students on the subcommittees, so it's a broad spectrum. So altogether, those three arrows represent 91 people that are working on the concerns and developing solutions. So that was the work that was accomplished in the committees between January and February. Also, we had a family and staff survey. This was the first survey that was distributed. There will be a second one in March. This one solely was to gather general perceptions and overall feelings. It was just a broad brushstroke of how are you feeling right now about the calendar to give us additional ideas that we might have missed in the concerns that we collected up until that point. We also collected research. There's not a deep level of research on balanced calendar or year-round school. However, there are quite a few articles and studies. And so we collected and looked at least 12, actually a few more, but there are 12 studies and articles and in a document that will be posted on the website tomorrow. And it gives a summary of the key findings and also the resource where you can find the article or the study that was developed. The research that we looked at spanned over 2 decades from 1996 to 2015, so it's a broad spectrum of research. Also, we interviewed current balance calendar implementer. We actually had an opportunity to interview our very own Valeska teachers and non-certified staff that are currently on a balanced calendar. So we had a focus group and gathered input from them. We also had an opportunity to interview a superintendent from Brownsburg, Indiana. They have implemented the balanced calendar for 9 years. And there are several communities around them that also implement the balanced calendar, and they're similar size. Also, Rock Island is another balanced calendar district, and there are some around the Quad Cities that we also ask for different reasons, athletics, community, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to also not just look at research, look at what our own stakeholders have to say, but we also wanted to look at people that are actually doing it, that has lived it. And those that we talked to have done it over 9 years. I think Rock Island has done it for 20 years. So that's what we've been up to.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Good evening. So the draft plan. A draft plan was put together based on exactly what Dr. Wilson was talking about. So the concerns, the hurdles, the gaps, that information was gathered, that was compiled. It was then looked at as far as what subcommittee that fit into. Those subcommittees then did a lot of work on developing solutions to those concerns. All of that information was gathered together and pulled into the draft plan. That draft plan should have been made available to you on Friday. At the beginning of the plan, it's basically just kind of a summary, exactly what Dr. Wilson did. She kind of summarized where we were and what we were doing. That's led up to where we are now. Then each subgroup did it kind of an executive overview, stating who was involved in the process, so on and so forth, and then kind of an overview of the work that's been done. We also included the survey results, so that was available to look at. We included a sample calendar. So there's a sample 22-23 school year calendar. Again, this is more of a visual reference, just to kind of take a look at what was there, or what a balanced calendar looks like. And that plan was modeled off of our current Valeska-Hinton calendar. So it's a third start week, or the start of school would be the third week in July, with the 3-week intercessions, just like you saw on the pie chart. But that's there just kind of as a visual reference. And then I also included all of the bullet pointed documents, so you can see what areas, what gaps were, and what solutions have been developed. So all of that information was included in that, and that's going to be made available on our website here this week, so that anyone can kind of get on there and take a look at it as well. So that's basically the draft plan that we have in front of you. And then the timeline. So we started in December, and we worked forming the groups, forming the different committees, the core committee, putting together our impact group, kind of communicating with everyone, inviting everyone. And then we really dove into the subcommittee work and gathering that information and making sure that we didn't, with that, no concern that was voiced was lost. So we made sure that we developed solutions to all concerns. That a lot of work was done on that through from January to February. So now, right now, we're at the obviously February 22nd. It's the board update with the information that we've gathered. Now we're going to be moving into what I'm calling phase 2, which will be beyond this, and that is really working, gathering our information from the community. So our town hall meetings, community groups, PTO meetings, parent staff survey. Again, as Dr. Wilson said, will be coming again in March. That'll be a little bit more focused. Then we will give you another update on March 22nd for progress that was done. And then if the recommendation superintendent, it'll be presented to the board then in April to vote on that proposal. And I believe that's it.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Vice President Wilson.
How many, do we know on hand how many family and staff surveys were completed?
Just one so far.
The number of people that actually participated?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, yes. So there were 938 for the family and 901 for the staff.
All right, awesome. And I have one more. What school resources, again, can you just describe some that will be available to students during the time off? During the proposed time off?
Sure. Go ahead, yes, yes, for sure.
Thank you for asking that question, Vice President Wilson. When you look at the research and balance calendar, and I think you've heard some feedback even from some of our public comments, I think that intercession break will be key for us, and we can be unique and different from the other ones. That would be my recommendation. Also would be the children that are below grade level. It would be highly encouraged, if not mandatory, that they attend these intercessions, because it's all about providing additional learning time, academic time, additional supports for them. So if you're struggling and you're behind, you shouldn't be on break. We should continue. And I think that could be a unique feature that could provide lots of opportunities for Peoria Public Schools, and could be an interesting study with that implementation. Does that answer your question? So during the intercession, the idea would be those who are
Correct.
struggling? Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Other questions? Dr. Rankin?
Just to reiterate and I guess confirm that we are looking at the school year of 2022, 2023, because originally I know that whether it was stated at a meeting or not, it was out that it might be the 21, 22, but that's no longer proposed, right? The 2022, 2023, okay.
The buildings will not be ready,
Right, no, yeah,
so it's right there.
right. I just wanted to reiterate that for people to hear, that I know that that was a big concern, that we might still be considering it for the 21, 2022.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Rankin.
Yep. Let's see. So for Mr. Collins, you had said that we were provided the draft plan. I might have just missed it. Did you say you sent it on Friday? Was it from you that you sent it?
It was part of your board packet,
Part of the board packet?
right,
Okay.
Kemi?
Okay, I will go check that. And then finally, for how you say that we're going to be posting kind of research about balanced calendar, are we, as part of that, are we going to provide both kind of the pros and cons, or just the research that shows pros?
Both pros and cons. We have a good lineup from EAB, do we, Dr. Wilson? Which I thought was kind of balanced. Do you have that research from EAB? Are you familiar with EAB?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can sure make it available that we received. What I did was I looked at key findings. So what were the key findings of each one of the studies and the articles? And I also included the reference for the article for anyone that also wanted to be able to look it up and look at additional information.
But we can add the EAB documentation. I thought they did a really nice job. Do you have that, Doctor? Does the team? No, not right now, but within you. Okay, perfect. Yep. Yeah, let's do that.
I just think for transparency purposes.
I agree.
So people don't have to go searching for the cons. It can all kind of,
Yep.
the pros and cons can be there. Thank you, that's all I have.
Good idea, thank you.
Other questions?
We have it.
Seeing none, thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Collins. We are now ready for presentations by audience members. Audience presentations are limited to 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep the comments constructive. The first speaker is Farai Kasambira.
Thank you, President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, and Dr. Karat. My name is Farai Kasambira. As stated, I'm a proud Peoria product. I attended Lindbergh, Keller for 1 year, graduated from Richwoods, then I attended Bradley, graduated twice, and subsequently I worked at juvenile detention for 10 years as a youth supervisor counselor and an assistant superintendent for 4 of those years. My father taught at Bradley for 40 years. My mother was a mental health nurse practitioner for 30 years plus at Human Service Center, St. Francis. And I also taught at ICC and Peoria High School in the Key Train Project as well as the SWEEPS program. And upon leaving Central Illinois, I moved out west to Los Angeles initially, and I became a facilities coordinator at eHarmony, working 2 years in technology there, and 2 years in the facilities department at Yahoo Oath, and then I began investing in technology companies, and then I became the co-founder of this company called PureTech. The founder, Ray Edwards, is the brainchild of PureTech. PureTech, in the most simple ways to announce it, is a cybernetic purification company. Now, I know that's not really simple, but what it is it uses hardware and software to purify surfaces that is touch-free and is automated, so it thinks and it can be all controlled from one access point. Now, my chief of finance is Marilyn Abney, who is a 35-year Caterpillar executive, and she came over and joined our company. And we have current partners such as the LA Rams, thus the mask, and Four Seasons hotels in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. And the LA Rams used our technology all last year, and they only had one case near the end of COVID. We're not a COVID, we weren't initially a COVID response, and we weren't completely responsible for their lack of cases. However, we were a big part of it, and they re-upped on their subscription, and we are replacing new technology in their facilities starting in June, and we're presenting in front of the entire NFL in April, as well as the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills. The reason that this is pertinent for us is that we look back at Peoria Public Schools and we look back at school systems in general and decided that there is definitely a need for this type of purification. It uses UV light and activated oxygen from a hardware standpoint to purify surfaces. And it also is touch-free. It has PIR sensors, so everything is safe, and it can be activated and used from one specific point. Now, what makes this different than any other system, it's not a replacement for HVAC. HVAC is obviously needed. We understand that a lot of the monies that have been given out federally are going towards HVAC refurbishment, which is absolutely necessary. We're not a strict replacement for people wiping down things. We don't wipe, we don't take away dirt. That's not what the purification does. However, we can track what's in the air. We can track when people come into the building, and we can track when surfaces and areas need to be purified, and nobody has to be there. So somebody can control a whole district from one cell phone or an iPad or a computer. I was able to, through the grace of Dr. Karat and Brandon Bell, conduct a study at Peoria High School over 10 hours on Saturday, and I was able to use the ATP test, which is used commonly in hospitals and restaurants and things of that sort for purification. And we were able in 35 minutes, an average of 35 minutes, to run the technology to cut the fomites and cut the bacteria by half. That was in 35 minutes. The technology would generally work overnight. It's a supplement to what people are already doing, and it's an added level of purification. Also, it will tell you what's happening in the area while it's happening. Now, the reason that we decided to go into schools is because 34% of most areas can be cleaned, and that's even with the most stringent cleansing processes. I have the studies, I'll send them to you when we're done, but Peoria High School was very clean. It was cleaner than the Rams facility, so that's a plus. But we still were able to decrease the fomites and the bacteria that we found by 50%, and that's just 35 minutes. Our technology can run in tandem with the control of HVAC and run overnight for hours and can serve as a great means of purification. Obviously, we understand that it's a public school, and we understand that it's school, so this isn't any kind of area where money is always flowing. So what we would like to propose in moving further is a situation in which we could use Peoria Public Schools as a pilot program, maybe do 1 or 2 schools, figure out how that would work beneficially for both, so we could collect the data as well as offer the purification that is being used by NFL teams, by high-level commercial real estate teams that we're currently in the throes of working with, and Four Seasons and other such verticals as that. So.
And that's right on time. Thank you, Mr. Casimir.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I was going to say, Dr. Crowd may have some response once we get done with the other speakers. Our next speaker is Dr. Kim Thomas. Oh, sorry. Yes. You know what? The way I put these on here is I need to space them out a little bit. Okay.
I'm Kim Thomas, Illinois Teacher of the Year, teacher in this district for 7 times 4 years. I want to shout out to Ms. Donath for getting math materials for us to pilot. Finally, after 5 + 3 years, we have a book that we're piloting. I wish her name, that the N would be an M, and I would call her Do Math. I also want to shout out to Mr. Allen for delivering these books to my side of the building. None of the teachers chose the Eureka Math. I just want to set some things straight here that we have had for 5 + 3 years. No teacher would ask for a math curriculum with no book and have to make 100 × 4 copies for each unit. This was given to us by the previous administration before Dr. Karat. No one asked us, just given to us. I won't let you forget about the incredible elementary students and teachers. They deserve a new curriculum as well. I was informed that this year's just for, middle school to pilot, and then next year supposedly elementary is. I will not let you forget about them. I was hoping everybody would get one. We've waited so long, and our curriculum has been for free. And if you look at it, you'll know why. Hopefully their pilot can start at the beginning of this coming year. So whatever company we adopt, they're gonna be like, okay, they'll give us some stuff to help these other teachers pilot. So I'm on that. All right, I've had just an amazing time working with these other math teachers. I hope after COVID we can get together and do more, meetings with our content area. I learned so much from the other math-tastic educators. I mean, you want to, get some math bumps going, you come into a meeting with all of the math teachers you have in this district. I got to meet Mr. Allen, wonderful I mean, our committee, I just loved it. My students want me to ask the board, when are we getting hot lunches? These lunches are gross. I told them the surrounding communities have hot lunches and that I think our lunch provider needs a walkthrough. I got a letter today, or an email earlier, from a teacher, Heidi Dow. She told me I could use her name. I need help. This is my first year teaching math. I'm only teaching it because I'm endorsed. It's her 8th year teaching. So most of my 8th graders are way behind. I'm talking like 3rd and 4th grade level math. I have some that are having problems multiplying more than one number, dividing, place value. Then I have some that are almost at grade level. Then I have a small number that are at grade level. I do have an inclusion teacher for one class. I have repeatedly asked for a TA. I've been told I can't get one, but I could get a tutor. I am over it. I need help for my kids. Can you give me some suggestions on how I can teach 3 levels in one class, 2 in the rest, while meeting everyone's needs? Her frustration is not alone. She is not alone in this. But don't you just love her dedication for her kids? That just gives me math bumps. I let her know she's not alone. I did give her some suggestions. I hope it's helping. But isn't it less expensive to hire a TA than a 7 times 5 hour tutor? We have some of the best TAs ever. I had one until there were changes in my program, which I'll get to that some other day. And I lost one of the best TA I ever had. I know Dr. Crott knows her, Shavante McKinley, just one of the most wonderful people I've ever met. Hopefully she'll be back at our program sometime. I want to talk about balanced calendar. I just learned it's because of COVID loss. Now wait a second. Kids needed support before COVID. So I don't understand why we'd say just because of COVID. And the only people this doesn't affect is really our year-round administration. I am thankful, times thankful, that you decided to wait another year before implementing this. Also on the district survey, I'm not really, how many surveyed. I want to see the results. What were the results? And also the question 2 + 5 on there that asked remediation or enrichment offered to students, would it benefit them? Well, of course remediation and enrichment benefit kids. That should be the purpose of summer school. With all the buildings getting air conditioned, the district can implement effective summer school. Kids can take remediation classes. Kids can take classes to get ahead, and then it won't be especially in high school, such a stressful year for them. Maybe we can pilot and have an elementary and a middle school do this and see what teachers want to be a part of that. You are really affecting an entire community, so please, please keep that in mind. But other policies need to be changed. Grading policy. If we don't change that grading policy, I don't care if kids go 100 times 3 plus 65 days out of the year. Social promotions need to end. Kids can just get moved along no matter how many classes they fail. Please have an alternative school, a true alternative school, that we provide an alternative school for gifted kids. Please provide one for kids who are grade levels behind. I want to
Mrs. Thomas.
reimagine education.
Mrs. Thomas.
Yes,
The time is up.
I know, for meeting the needs of all of our kids. Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Next, we have Mr. Jeff Atkins Dutrow.
Good evening, Jeff Atkins Dutrow with the Peoria Federation of Teachers. We bargained recently. In the district's written response to our bargaining issues, we were told that several proposals on our list were not our business. Hence, we are bringing these proposals before the board. It's unfortunate the district would not bargain these issues with us. That said, because they won't, we have no option but to bring these issues before you tonight. First, a couple of positives. Vaccines. It seems the district and the health department have doubled down on getting teachers vaccinated. We appreciate that. We do still have quite a few teachers who have not been able to get their first vaccination. We want every teacher vaccinated with both doses as soon as possible, and we feel that this is critical. Testing for teachers and students, we have requested that the district maintain its current COVID testing regimen, including offering optional testing to staff. The district has agreed. We would like to thank the administration and the district for the continued testing. Issues denied. You just heard about lunches. We brought up the quality of our school lunches during bargaining. You have seen our Facebook posts. We were essentially told that as teachers, this is none of our business. Hence, we are coming to the school board and we are going public with this issue. We expect our students to have hot, healthy lunches at all times. Oust Sodexo and bring the money back home. Water. In most of our schools, students go all day with no water because the water fountains are off. During bargaining, we were told that this was none of our business. Hence, we are coming to the school board and we are going public with this issue. A couple of schools have touch-free bottle refilling stations. Most do not. At the very least, we expect parents to be told if there will be no water available so they know to send their children to school with bottles of water. Plans. We have asked for updated plans since all students will be returning on March 1st. We were told that the COVID committee has been meeting. We have not been aware of or part of any such meetings in the year 2021. That said, we have manifold instances where students will not be able to be socially distanced, by 3 feet, let alone 6 feet. Per CDC guidelines, there are supposed to be walkthroughs of buildings to ensure that there can somehow be social distancing. Given the number of teachers who have contacted me asking how in the world am I supposed to socially distance with 27 students, I can only assume that these walkthroughs are not happening. We can't have a wait-and-see scenario. We need plans in place if there's to be a full return. And we have asked that parents be notified of instances where their children will not be socially distanced during the school day. Robust summer school. During bargaining, we put forth the proposal of having robust summer school to make up for learning loss. Instead of engaging us in this endeavor, the district told us that this will be regarded as a helpful recommendation. Well, thank you. That said, we expect a fully staffed, robust summer school this summer to make up for COVID learning loss. It has to happen. Limit testing, tiering of students. The PFT has asked that the district limit academic testing and tiering, as testing time and tiering time are not useful during the pandemic, and our teachers want as much instructional time with their students as possible, given the limited amount of time we have left in this school year. We were told that this was none of our business. Hence, again, we are coming to the school board with this issue. It is our business, and we expect a testing moratorium. Return metrics. We have asked for retreat metrics for both individual classrooms and individual schools. We were told that the retreat metrics can be found in the return to school plan and in guidance that was sent to the Board of Education. We cannot find said guidance. Hence, we are asking the Board of Education to request definitive retreat metrics for classrooms and for schools, and to please relay that information to us and to parents. Lastly, there is an article for each of you on simultaneous teaching and how it leads to teacher burnout and quitting. And I'll repeat, it leads to teacher burnout and quitting. We have several teachers in our district teaching this way. We wanted to make you aware. These teachers need some relief, and they need it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins Dutrow. Our next speaker is Mrs. Ernestine Jackson.
Good evening. My name is Ernestine Jackson. I live at 1123 West Teton Drive. I rise today to, first of all, thank the board for thinking of looking at our schools as it relates to making some changes in some names of the schools. And I stand today particularly for the change of Thomas Jefferson to C.T. Vivian School. I stand before you because I've known C.T. since I was about 13 years old. His wife was head of the girls department at Carver Center, and he was over the recreation department. So I got to know him as he was coming out of Macomb to Peoria. I got to know him because he also worked with all the kids at Carver Center and taught us almost everything we knew about civil rights and what to do and how to do things. He made it his business to make sure we knew, and he'd tell us who invented things that weren't given credit, but white people were given credit for their inventions. So I rise to say, who else could you give that name of that school to but C.T. Vivian? His family is here. His children all went to District 150. His grandchildren went to District 150. His great-grandchildren are probably in District 150. But if you all remember, when he left here, he went to theology school. Then he left there and went to Atlanta. And the vivid picture of Dr. C.T. Vivian standing on the steps of the courthouse, being beaten by the police officers because he was fighting for the right to vote of people in this country. Who else could you even think about but someone that was beaten bloody on the steps of a courthouse or on that fateful Sunday day, walking with Dr. King and John Lewis, but C.T. Vivian. So I rise today to say there's no one better, no person we can even recommend better than naming a school after the Reverend C.T. Vivian. As president of the NAACP Education Committee, I'm speaking not only for myself, but for our president, Reverend Marvin Hightower, the executive committee, and all the members of the Peoria branch of the NAACP. So I encourage you, and we'll help you do whatever you need to do to rename Thomas Jefferson to the Reverend C.T. Vivian School.
Thank you, Mrs. Jackson. Our final speaker is Mr. Terry Knopp.
I applaud the teacher union president for suggesting summer school. That's a must. If you don't do it, you're severely, critically damaging the students by not having June and July this year for summer school. I want to say that you need to have 2 board members. This has been talked about many times, that you have 2 board members on the bargaining team. You don't get the information that's the true information that occurs at bargaining unless your board members are there. And, you know, it's time. You know, I just listened to Ms. Wilson get up here and tell you again about Quad Cities. Didn't I tell you last week that Quad Cities has an 8-week summer vacation? And I think she's talking about the same school, are you not? The school that's been doing this for 15 years. What is it? Milan? Is that what you're talking about? Do they have an 8-week summer, or do they have a 3-week summer? I suggest you look into it. What I'm telling you one thing. I talked to the superintendent. I talked to the curriculum people. They said they have an 8-week summer. not a 3-week summer. They said a 3-week summer won't work. They told me that on the phone 3 weeks ago. Call them up. If you got divergent opinions here on what they're saying, somebody's lying in Rock Island. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have to buy this. Chris Whittle came in here 20 years ago. He's part of this movement, okay? Edison was part of his movement. Edison is no longer. Company's gone. He came in here and fleeced this community of $40 million. Fleeced it. Caterpillar finally kicked him out for the IPO. I've said this. How many times have I said this? This was the idea of some progressive people that actually worked for Edison. You know, Dr. Wood didn't even teach. She was a substitute. I mean, they got her a substitute so she could be prepared to be the Edison principal out there. First thing she did was cut a teacher in math, and a teacher in art and a teacher in PE, and doubled the class sizes, and went after teachers. She got a bonus for that, a $5,000 bonus from Edison, not from the school district, from Edison. You know, it totally ruined the curriculum at Northmore. Went over to, you know, she went to work for Edison. Ken Hinton retired from Peoria and went to work for Edison for $165,000 a year. They bought him. He came back, wasn't even qualified to be the superintendent, was selected superintendent and given grace until he could get his certificate. I had my certificate in 1977. I wouldn't be an administrator for anything. You understand? I mean, it's not worth it. But my point to you is, you listen to this stuff. I gave you some more another paper tonight. It talks about Ocala, Florida. It talks about Tallahassee. Talks about Monroe, Louisiana. Talks about Durham, North Carolina. Talks about Montgomery County in Maryland, which is a famous county. They had this stuff, and they got rid of it. And they tell you why they got rid of it. I told you last week, you know, of the schools in Los Angeles, San Diego, and Albuquerque, and Marion County. Told you why they got rid of it. Told you that 453 schools were voted out of the year-round school. You know, I don't understand this. We don't even get up here and say, why don't you read this? Why don't you ask them questions publicly about this? Instead of sitting there allowing the public, 900 people. We interviewed 900 people. We got 12,500 students in Peoria. That's like not even interviewing anybody. That's 10% of the people, hand selecting 10% of the people to get opinions from. I stood here and watched you present 2 people, 2 students, 2 adults, parents, and 2 teachers that said this virtual school is a great thing. Are you kidding me? We played that in front of the public at a meeting, telling the public, oh, look, here we have 2 people, 2 kids, 2 parents, and 2 adults that say that this is a good situation for our school district. Please, be above the board.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Response?
Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Walden.
I guess I may ask to have a point of order. Had a request from a person who wanted to send an email to Ms. Ross, and she'd asked if I'd read it. We've not usually done that, and so I just wanted to get a point of privilege, if that's okay. She's not here in person, but she did send this in, and it was in regards to the Thomas Jefferson, renaming Thomas Jefferson.
This is not our normal practice. Normally we would not, but you know, during the pandemic, I think we have some circumstances that we can accommodate.
I think that was part of her concern.
Okay. If there are no objections. Okay.
Thank you. This is from Lynn Carlisle, 1810 West Lamont in Peoria, and she sent it to the full school board. This is to give notice of my displeasure of the suggestion to rename Thomas Jefferson Primary School. It was named to remember the 3rd President of the United States. My belief is the school board should provide a direction for a strong American history education to the students of the extraordinary life of Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was a spokesman for democracy and American founding father. At age 33, he drafted the Declaration of Independence, where he states a strong condemnation of slavery. In Washington, D.C., at the Washington Monument, inscribed in marble, are these words from Thomas Jefferson regarding the injustice of slavery. I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, that his justice cannot sleep forever. Do not erase him from the face of the Peoria school building. I count 27 schools in District 150, with only 5 named after 5 presidents of the United States. I see no justification for choosing Thomas Jefferson for the school for a name. As thinking, common sense adults, let us use our energies and crusades toward the education of the students. Let us promote American history of our founding fathers rather than erasing them. When she called and asked if I could do this, I said, I don't know if I can. I would do that. Her objection was not at all to C.T. Vivian. It was the Thomas Jefferson being the school to replace that. So she wanted to let that know. There were a number of schools other than Thomas Jefferson that she said could be used to make that thing. So I appreciate your indulgence.
Thank you. With that, response to audience presentations, Dr. Karat.
Thank you, President Shaw. First, Mr. Cassenberry. Yeah, your dad was actually one of my favorite professors at Bradley. I took many classes with him. And say hi to your mom for me as well. Are you working with Mr. Myers and Mr. Willis regarding the purification system? And thank you for the update regarding Peoria High where you piloted. Buildings and grounds, you said regarding the pilot, you wanted to pilot? Why don't you send an email to me and then we'll okay, is that okay? Or merely? Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks for coming this evening. And Ms. Thomas, I agree. Primary is the next thing on the list, right, Dr. Wilson? The whole idea is to curriculum as part of our extra funds to clean that up, and yeah, it's long overdue. So thank you. And thanks for all of your work with the committee. And if anybody's in need of help, as you reference, either, our director of mathematics, Mrs. Donath, can help. And I did like that idea, if it was an M. Do math. Yep. So, yeah, and we could probably let's get some more information regarding that TA. And there's additional supports also. So, but the important point, though, is once middle school is approved, math will be next. I mean primary, sorry. And then, okay, then also alternative schools, we have quite a bit of options. We have Knoxville, we have Coach Booth has the Game Changer program with Elite. That's doing a nice job. We have the online program, which is our largest school, about 1,500 students, so families are choosing that. And I think we're really creative regarding providing, we have the respite program down at the Wraparound Center, and I'm sure I'm missing some others, but, the program that Ms. Thomas, you're involved with, that's an alternative program as well. So I would say we've done a lot around that area, and of course, there's always room for improvement, and we're always seeking additional ideas. But I'm definitely happy with the progress that we've made and we're making. As it relates to, let's see, the union, tonight you got an opportunity to hear just a itsy bitsy teeny weeny, I'm trying to be like Ms. Thomas, taste of what we have to deal with on a daily basis, and this is all about March 1st. It's about extending, it's about the kids coming back and getting what they deserve. And so when we talk about academics and And I will touch on that regarding my update, my return to school update. You know, you hear things like, this is about our kids, you know, the most vulnerable, our most vulnerable asset and our most voiceless group. We're fighting for them so that they can get what they deserve. They need to be in the buildings, interacting with their teachers and their peers. The screen time is not as effective as we all have experienced. And so, you know, we heard about summer school. You heard an announcement about summer school today, that a robust summer school is on the docket for June and July. Dr. Bott, the directors, the principals put in that, you know, there's a plan. They're continuing to revisit it and tighten it up. It's looking very, very, very good. There'll be lots of options. But I would say summer school, it's not enough. You know, there's a lot of loss. And yes, you know, before COVID, the entire system overall educational system was broken. But this is an opportunity for us to wake up and do what's best for our children. So tonight you heard about balanced calendar, and I will say, you know, it doesn't have to be balanced calendar, but we need to do something because what we're currently doing is not enough. So if they don't like balanced calendar, then maybe there's a conversation about lengthening the school day. How about, you know, lengthening the school year? Okay, so, but something needs to be done to address the gaps. Whether they were done during COVID or prior to, we're not going to point fingers, but we know that we need to do more, for sure. And so that's what this conversation is all about. And that's what this journey is all about. Thank you.
Just one clarification, summer school this summer?
This summer, yes, sir.
Okay, and can you give us the tentative dates for that?
Sure, and there will be an update at the next board meeting. We didn't want to overwhelm the board with balanced calendar and summer school, so I said let's do one at a time.
Okay.
Dr. Bott, what are the days for summer school?
Okay.
So June.
Okay.
Yeah, who read that announcement? Yeah.
Did someone make an announcement on summer school? Okay, I think we were supposed to receive one, but I don't recall.
Did they get one?
Oh, you did one. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You have the dates, Mrs. Costick?
It's June 7th through July 15th.
June 7th through July 15th.
Thank you. That for the good of the public.
Yep. And they will get an update next March 8th, I believe, at our next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes, Mr. Wellman?
Yeah, I just had a comment in regards to Mr. Dutrow's request. Instead of Dr. Ike denying 13 of these things, having been a union negotiator for probably 25 years, probably 75% of these are mandatory subjects of bargaining. And the union brought them to us because they wanted us to give some direction. I would like to see the district go back and deal with these issues. Now, some of these may not be, but I think it's in concern for the kids. When you're talking about water for the kids, is that a subject of bargaining for teachers? Maybe not, maybe for them, but for teachers. But you want to do what's right for the kids. And I would say, instead of saying no to this whole list of things, let's sit down and look at some of these issues. A number of these, quite frankly, if they have to go to the labor board and say, we want to demand on bargaining on that, I think labor board's going to come back and say the district's going to have to do that. I think the reason they brought it to us is so we don't have to do that. I think we would like to do that more collaboratively. And so my comment is I would like us to be a little bit more open on some of these issues.
Yeah, Mr. Walther, thank you. I had those, but they were scribbled on top, and I forgot about them. I went down to the bottom. Thank you for reminding me. So We heard about lunches as well, and they want hot lunches, and I wanted Mr. Willis to make some comments about that. Mr. Willis? Mr. Willis, you heard all the feedback
Yes,
about the lunches?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
We are looking at the whole hot lunch and cold lunch thing, and the biggest issue that we have currently with serving hot lunches and students not being in the lunchrooms is we don't have the infrastructure for feeding students in their classrooms and guaranteeing that the food stays hot, the food that is warm stays warm and is served warm to the students in the classroom. So what we're looking at is trying to work with each of our building principals and trying to work through students having lunches, social distance, in cafeterias, and in that way, we'd be able to broaden the variety of lunches that are served. If we try to do that based on what we have now, students eating in classrooms, we simply don't have the infrastructure needed to get hot meals to the classrooms and guarantee the stuff that's supposed to be hot will stay hot like it's supposed to. So that's the biggest issue with having hot food in classrooms. So we're having conversations about trying to make that happen. But what it would take is students who are currently eating in classrooms having those meals in the cafeterias in a social distance way, and that takes some work and working through.
Yep, thank you. And we've had ongoing discussions about that. Then the other one, and that just gives you a sense of the items. Dr. Ike, what's the conversation about the water?
I believe it's a request to provide either water bottles or those big jugs of water stations where kids can come and get drinking water. I guess it's a matter of, perspective and interpretation. We entered into the impact bargaining because the district announced a return to school March 1st. So usually, when a district announces a change in program, the union will say, all right, let's bargain the impact on our members, right? So we go to the table and say, what do you see as the impact on our members? So I'm looking to hear the impact on our members, but instead I'm hearing impact on students in terms of water and school lunches. It's like, okay, these are all important topics, but we can isolate them as discussion things on the side and just revisit them just like Mr. Willis is addressing it with the food service department. But let us bargain how returning to school March 1 impacts your members. Because it's, as you know, it's, what would you give me for returning to school now? It's like, things about safety, sure. We're committed to making sure that we're following all the CDC guidelines. That's an impact on their members. So safety, sure, and a couple of other items on there. I said, these are things that we know will impact your members. The metrics, we said we'll provide those metrics. The plans plans that they requested. We said, sure, we'll provide you the plans for individual schools. So things that impact your members, we said, definitely, we will talk with you about those things. Vaccination, we know vaccination is voluntary, really. I mean, we encourage everybody to do it, but it shouldn't be a condition for returning to school March 1. Obviously, if it's a condition, it would have been mandated just like the student October vaccinations is, because there's a law for all kids to be vaccinated. If they're not, they're excluded, right, in October. So, but the vaccination for COVID is voluntary. Some people are still refusing it. But I just wanted to make sure that we don't mix things that impact teachers versus things that are worthy of discussion for the interest of students. Just want to clarify that.
And then testing, you know, I have the same sentiment in terms of testing, but we have to do the MAP testing, the NWA testing, so that we have some sort of a pre and post to gauge progress, and that's all part of the work that cannot be ignored. And so when we say, you know, there's a moratorium in testing, you know, it's like, okay, that doesn't make sense because of the nature of the work that we're involved with. So those were the three things I had scribbled: water, lunches, and testing. Dr. Ike did a nice job trying to help you understand what we have to deal with every day, every day, every day.
So our normal protocol is to have the superintendent respond to audience presentations. We did break protocol with Mr. Walden, so I will allow other board members to break protocol this evening, and we will get back to protocol at our next meeting. Vice President Wilson.
I just had a quick comment. Could I or the board get an update from Mr. Willis regarding the working with the building principals to see what we can do about that hot lunch situation? If I can get an update, or if we see fit that the entire board gets one, that'd be great. That's all I had.
Sure.
Dr. Rankin.
So I have several things. I don't know if you want to wait until after they do this, the return to school update, or if you want me to respond to what the union has said.
It might be good to have the RTS plan first, because some questions may be answered in the plan.
That's fine. I can do that. I can hold them.
We'll be open after that. We'll be open for questions after that.
Okay.
Other board members on this? Okay, thank you. In fact, we are ready for the return to school plan. Dr. Karat.
President Shaw, Vice President Wilson, board, and the audience, and our individuals at home or friends at home. I'll just give a quick update. With students returning to in-person instruction 5 days a week starting next Monday, March 1st, I would like to provide another short update to you right now. So I did invite Monica Hendrickson, Director of the Peoria County Health Department, to join us this evening like she normally does from time to time, but she had a conflict and could not attend the meeting. She still does support our plan to return to 5 days of in-person. As I have reported previously, local and regionally, our COVID matrix are dropping. The positivity rate for Peoria County is at 5.6 and has fluctuated between 4.9 and 5.9 over the last 4 weeks. Internally, our own matrix paint a similar picture of our positivity rate last week out of more than 400 tests that were administered, the positivity rate was 0%. And since January 19th, when in-person instruction resumed, we have conducted more than 3,000 surveillance and or symptomatic tests, the PCR and the antigen test, and our positivity rate is 0.56%. As of today, we only have 2 active staff positives and 2 active student positives. Monica also cited that since we began in-person instruction last October and continues to be true today, schools have, and that is true, what she reminded us of, and we all know, we've heard it on the news, we've read it in magazines. Schools have not been the source COVID-19 transmission. They've not been the source of COVID-19 transmission, and that applies to both the hybrid model districts like ours, and also the other districts that have been in person every day for 5 days since last August. Schools have not been the source of COVID-19 transmission. With students being back in person 5 days, there will be more students in a given classroom. We will maintain 6 feet of distance between students in a classroom whenever possible, and will not go any closer than 3 feet away. And that's all that has been in the CDC guidelines from day one. You know, if you can, 6 feet, but there is some flexibility and elasticity based on space. Our executive directors, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Bell, Dr. Wood, Dr. Bond, the rest of our staff, all of our Coach Booth, Dr. Ike, Ms. Rose, Dr. Bott, Dr. G, all of our principals and their staff, they have worked very, very, very hard to come up with further solutions for creating space, if needed, for students within the classroom setting. And some of those additional ideas include moving furniture or other items into storage, utilizing desk shields, using flexible seating around other spaces in the classroom, among other strategies that are being utilized. We have prioritized, as from day one, the very beginning, that our return to school plan was built around safety. So we have prioritized safety from the very beginning of this process, and will continue to do so with our built-in mitigations. We also have, remember, that huge COVID-19 testing apparatus that really no other district has in this area, or probably downstate, because we're doing both. We're doing PCR, we're doing antigen, and so our huge COVID testing apparatus for staff and students, plus we have the ongoing vaccinations for our staff. Also, the health department has designed a survey to gauge who has been vaccinated so far, in not only in our school district, but in Peoria County, and who is still in need of vaccination. So hopefully we'll kind of get a glimpse of that. But one thing I'll say with my team, we have done everything we possibly can to get the word out and to make sure that our entire staff, Peoria Public Schools educators and employees, had access to the information, and hopefully an added edge, getting the information early. I truly believe we must all focus on the in-person learning so that the teachers can further develop the relationships they have with children more in depth, because, as I said earlier, the on-screen time is not as effective, and there's a lot of there's a lot of loss. We experience that every day. So the in-person will enhance opportunities the 5 days, March 1st. That experience thereafter will enhance opportunities for students to receive one-on-one tutoring, small group instruction, to accelerate their learning for the last 3 months that we will have together with them. And, study after study has piled up noting that detrimental effects of this pandemic on children. We've already talked about that, what's happening with kids. Suicide rates are climbing, learning loss that continues to accumulate. Social isolation is a huge challenge and a big problem. And all of these effects are occurring inequitably, so furthering the obstacles our students are already facing. And also what we discussed at the last board meeting, and I had all of our schools just listed: primary, middle, our K-8 buildings, our high school, our special programs. And I said, do you have excess numbers in classes potentially? And so you can see, for example, primary, there was one school. Do you have excess numbers that you anticipate? And so yes or no. And then there was one yes. And then do you have a solution? And there was a yes. So when I look at middle, everyone had solutions. Let's see. Dr. Bell, are you on the line? So that's all I have for the time being. I know Dr. Rankin had some questions, so we can get that started.
Yes, I'm here, Dr. Karat.
Okay. Did you guys have a solution for Mark bills?
Yes,
Okay.
working very closely with Dr. G and Ms. Padilla,
Okay.
able to get some of the furniture. I believe that's correct, Dr. G. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Move some of the furniture out of the classroom.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't see a Y in that column. I missed it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem.
Questions on the return to school plan, Dr. Rankin?
Yeah, so going back to some of the things that were mentioned by the union and that was discussed a little bit about the hot and healthy lunches. I guess my question is, how do we have the infrastructure at some schools and not others? For example, I know Valeska Hinton has hot lunches. I also know that some of the other schools, just because I have insight to some of the other schools that are starting March 8th with hot lunches. So how is that, the infrastructure not happening at all of the schools and only some of the schools?
Yeah, Mr. Willis?
Yes, I'm here. Some schools have more lunchroom space. Some schools have more spots that they can go to socially distance students. Some schools have fewer students, so it's a combination of things that kind of drive whether or not that works for a particular school. But a lot of that is how what spaces do you have to spread students over so they can be socially distanced? How many students do you have? Who are interested in the cafeteria meals, et cetera. So there are a number of factors, but those are big drivers.
So when the infrastructure is stated, it's essentially cafeteria room, not necessarily, I mean, that's the biggest driving factor.
When in terms of having students eat in the cafeterias, yeah. In terms of students eating in classrooms, we would have to have special containers that we don't have, that we would have to transport from the cafeteria to the classrooms in order to guarantee that all meals served that are supposed to be hot are hot, and get to the students on their desks for them to consume the way that, you know, it was designed, hot. And that equipment, when you're talking about hot meals in classrooms, that's a huge piece that, and that's a part of that infrastructure that I'm saying that we don't have. We literally would have to invest in all of that stuff. And, you know, and a big question obviously is when, you know, we're past this, what do you do with it? So, but that's the infrastructure issue is if we attempt to take hot meals to classrooms without the equipment that is guaranteed to keep it hot, you know, you run the risk of serving something that's supposed to be hot and it's not, and you know, you run the risk of it being compromised and that kind of thing, which obviously we don't want to do. That's what I mean when I speak about the infrastructure.
Okay. Ms. Seipel, is Mr. Streamer on the line by chance? No.
And so the material that you're talking about is probably similar to what they use at Valeska Hinton to get the food hot to the classrooms, but that is just purchased for Valeska Hinton at this point. We don't have it for other schools.
That's not something that we have district-wide that would enable us to do all classrooms all across the district that way.
Okay. So a lot of my questions are going to lead back to the impact on your members when we're talking about union negotiations. So I am going to come back to that. Going to the water in schools, I guess I did not realize that we don't have running water in schools right now for students to use. I maybe should have, but I figured that was just a fluke and that was something that was getting turned back on. That's a huge concern for me, as it's obviously to the union, especially for the touch-free systems. And just by chance, when I left earlier to go use the restroom, I tested the water fountain in this building and this water fountain is on. And it's running. So I'm wondering why the administration building has their water fountains on, but the water fountains in school buildings are not turned on, especially if they have touch-free within their buildings.
Mr. Willis, is that a decision from Buildings and Grounds? Or Dr. Ike, do you know? I think it was because of COVID and...
That was Buildings and Grounds. We were responsible for turning the water fountains off. I thought that, we can double check. I'm not 100% sure where that guidance came from, honestly. We can double check, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure, where that decision point was. Obviously, we have the ability, if we're asked, to turn water off, and that ask was made, so that's what happened. But I'm not beyond that. I'm just not sure what happened when. So that's something that I can research, obviously, but and then follow up on it if you'd like.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody, Dr. Wilson or any of the individuals, Dr. Wood, Dr. Bell, but I would say initially when COVID started in, March, and then there was a conversation about the surfaces and those sorts of things. But now that we've progressed quite a bit and we've learned a lot, we could get back to the team and revisit it and then give the board an update on that.
And
So,
I like Jeff's idea where I think this is your idea, Jeff, that students bring water bottles. They bring their water bottles and we can fill them up in sinks. So So I think the point is getting water to students when they're going to be there for longer periods of time. And so I don't know if having kids at a water fountain with COVID, I mean, we're wearing masks to breathe, so to have lots of students taking turns at a water fountain may or may not be the best. We could sure check it out. But the idea to have students bring a water bottle full and then fill it up at a sink makes a lot of sense. So I think we could work something like that out. So we could talk with principals.
And I guess my shock was when I just walked by the water fountain and pressed the button to see if it was working, that the water fountains at this building are working, but we've shut them off where all of our students are. And I know we're adults in this building and all of that, but high schools, they know how, I mean, like middle schools, elementary schools, you can definitely teach kids how to spray the water fountain after you're done using it. There are definitely ways that you can teach it. And I think that just shows kind of inequitable right now that we are not providing that. Along with, yes, students can bring water bottles, but we cannot assume that every student remembers their water bottle. I mean, one day my son forgot his mask, right? Like,
Well, they should have extra masks. And we can turn the water fountain, and I can guarantee you, nobody's drinking from that water
I'm
fountain.
sure, right.
So, I mean, we're not making a big scene out of it. It was to protect kids initially, and now, because they have not been in school. They just started in January. So if folks says, turn the water fountain on, they can turn the water fountain on.
Perfect. For one of the other things was a definitive retreat metrics. I know that we have kind of stepped around this all year, but I think that as we are going back full-time, full day, whatever that means during COVID, that we do have definitive retreat metrics so that we know that I know that we have testing within schools, so it may be not county-wide, but school-wide, but making sure that both the union and the administration and the board all have those retreat metrics, I think is really important. And then finally, I think that when we are talking about the distancing, I've had pictures all day leading up to this meeting from schools where they're saying there's no way we can get 3 to 4 feet between kids in this classroom. And they're sending me pictures. And I agree. Some of them have invited me this week to come and look and say, where are the big bodies going to go in this classroom? High school, middle school. I haven't heard from any elementary schools, but that is a big concern when we're thinking about going back full time. Knowing science labs have tables. There's no plexiglass there. We're asking teachers or schools to buy the plexiglass if that's something that they want. I guess my big concern is yes, our students do need to be back in the building. I don't know that we are actually providing all of the precautions that help parents, teachers, and students have that distance.
Yep, so what I would say is, as we implement, seems like you have a lot of people getting in touch with you. As you continue to get feedback from them, share it, and we'll find ways to continue to improve. Nothing is perfect. We're going to give it a try. I have just said that all of the buildings, they worked with their staff and anticipated excess classrooms. They implemented some mitigation strategies that they are forecasting. And so when the rubber meets the road, I'm sure you probably will get tons of calls, and it will be an opportunity to address, and do what's right for children.
And
so just keep me informed.
Okay, so along those lines, have anybody from the administration building, other than Dr. Bell, who I know works directly with principals, gone and done any walkthroughs this week plan to do any walkthroughs this week? I know it's only Monday, to see how rooms are set up and to hear the concerns, any concerns from teachers?
They have worked collaboratively with their principals. Principals are in charge of their buildings, and everyone have worked with their principals multiple occasions. They worked collaboratively with them and assisted in problem solving.
Okay. And then kind of my final thing, which I think I'm going to defer to Mr. Walther, since you know about union negotiations more than I do. When it was stated that union negotiations only occur when it impacts your members. I think that really is up to interpretation. I would argue that students having hot lunches and having full bellies with nutritious food does impact your members because it impacts how students behave in the afternoon and how focused they are. I would argue that safety is up for interpretation. I would argue that water, I know we've done that, but I would argue that having understanding the limited testing and understanding those do impact your members because they are worn out. They are worn out and they are beat down. And so kind of going along that, I don't know, Mr. Walther, if you have kind of your union hat on and kind of taking that on. But the last question I want to ask is about limiting testing and academic tiering. It was stated that we have to do the NWA for pre and post. And my question is that a have to from the district, or is that a have to guided by the state?
Well, it drives everything that we do, and we have to be able to find out the deficiencies. You know, you go to a doctor, they take your temperature. I mean, you're an educator, all right? And so. And you were the one, when we were talking about Sylvan, the first thing you asked, were there pre and post testing so that we can see where kids are? And then, you know, the progress that they're making. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think Sylvan is a little different since we were spending money on it. I guess where my question is coming with these metrics is that teachers are asking if there can be something, knowing my son's age, he's going to basically be testing the whole month of March. And so knowing that they're going back to school, but essentially with all of the things they do in middle school, he's going to be testing instead of kind of having that instruction that we're talking about is so needed. And so I guess is the state waiving, I guess my simple question is the state waiving the summative state tests?
No, not yet. Although I'm part of one of the superintendents, one of the almost 700 superintendents who've written a letter to the United States Department of Education asking for that. But when we talk about locally and we talk about meeting children where they are, we have to have a sense of, right? And so it's part of the work. Otherwise, then you're just walking blindly and any road will take you there for the most part. So there's some limits, but there's some, you know, there's some pieces that we just cannot throw away. It has to be done to provide the guidance in terms of the, you know, their strengths and weaknesses and how to even, you know, IXL and those additional resources and their skills, you know, trying to determine, right, team, what the deficiencies are and working through that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Mr.
you.
Walther, sorry, I had the union question, then I saw I had one more question. So I didn't know if you had, I mean, the impacting your members, I don't know if I'm interpreting that correctly, but that's kind of my interpretation of when it impacts your members, having a hot lunch in your belly, having safety, feeling that you are being supported in the school building, I think are important and impact members as part of negotiations.
And the state said no to the waivers so far. There's still a lot of pressure being placed on them.
Okay.
And we're one of those districts. I think we're on the same page as far as that's concerned.
I had Mrs. Ralston, Mr. Waller.
No, let him go ahead and
Oh,
answer the question.
okay.
I had just a couple of quick comments. One, this is an unusual position. I'm going to come to help bail out Dr. Wilson. The water issue is a COVID issue. I substitute in other districts. And basically what the county health does, if you've got an open water fountain like we may have here, that's COVID that those are shut off. If you've got the open ones where you've got that, they are allowed to be open because kids are they're asking them to bring water bottles for that. And some schools have provided the small water bottles if the kid forgets it. But that's why it was COVID directed. It's just almost impossible if you've got kids from kindergarten or anything leaning over and trying to get water on it. It's just not been an issue, and that's what they've done. I think that's really more of a state mandate. And to Dr. Karat, I'm with you on that. I appreciate you going to try to get that testing removed. I think that's what the folks are looking at. And I've been a pre and post person with NWA too. I mean, I've been an advocate for that, so I can't come back now and say we can't do that now. But it has been an issue. We're hearing that, Dr. Reiking and I and other board members have heard too, that the testing is taking so much time from the learning. We're trying to get back to the learning part. We still need to have those pieces, but I really appreciate, I know you're with a group of, what, 700 superintendents that are going to try to take that off, because that's just taken away from what we're trying to get at right now.
Yeah, and I assisted in drafting that letter. I'll send it to you. I think it was a really nice letter from quite a bit of superintendents from all over the state of Illinois, just asking them to waive it. And the state can't do it, so you have to go, because of funding. Funding is associated with
Right.
it also. So the state of Illinois cannot say, don't do it this year, because they have to get permission from the United States Department of Education.
Right. And the metrics in the classrooms are one that's difficult too, because we've got some, I know, with high school going back, but it gets back to one question I have, I guess it's for Dr. Wilson or for Dr. Yu. We've got kids who are doing online. I understand that's being taken away. And if we're taking away online learning, those kids are going to come back to the classroom, which increases the number of kids we're going to have in a classroom. And is that the direction we're doing? We're going to do a CELUS, as I understand it, but we're not going to do the online? Am I accurate in that?
We have a pretty solid system in place based on what we've experimented with when we first started. And so for the most part, people are are in place. And so we have the numbers. And so we're ready to move on with.
So there's going to be some reflection on the numbers before. I just trying to get my handle on that, because I've been to some schools and they're saying, no, we're still going to have some people online. I've been to other schools and they said, no, our online are coming back. And I just didn't know if is that a policy by individual school? Is it a policy district-wide?
No, K-8, for example, you have a CELUS, that's a choice.
Right.
And you heard that presentation last month, which serves very well for some families. And then for K-8, you have either the online option or you have the in-school option, the in-person option.
Because my concern was, if we're taking that one away, then you're automatically going to force kids back into school, which is going to generate the numbers. If you're still going to be able to have some kids online, then that doesn't put us in that position and stuff.
Yeah, because staffing, I mean, I wish we could do all, Mr. Walther, and we tried, and.
I was going to ask if that's a staffing question.
Yes, sir.
Because
Yeah.
I'd stopped at both Hines and Keller last week, and the Hines principal couldn't have been kinder. Took me to the rooms and showed me where the spacing was, and their custodians had marked 3 feet apart to do the kind of thing. So, I mean, I've seen in action where they're trying to do this.
Yeah. And I would say I'm really, really proud of our Board of Education, our school district overall, for trying to work with our families the best that we can. We listen, and if we can help, we help. And if we can't, we just provide what's on the table and say, okay. And I think we've done a lot of that to the extent that we can.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross.
Sure, you pretty much, okay, thank you. You pretty much brought up what I was gonna bring up about the COVID and the water situations. I know I think the water is still on, but in most schools, but they're like covered, so the kids can't use them, and that's a legal thing with as far as COVID is concerned. Now, I do want to get clarification from you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What do you mean by teachers are worn down, beat down, and worn out? What do you mean by that?
They are getting burnt out if you look at this article that was provided to us tonight, they're doing, planning virtually is double the work. And being able to do that, feeling as if they're kind of going back and forth, feeling the stress of getting the the COVID shot, feeling the stress of changes, feeling the stress of having kids come in and try to plan the distancing, having the stress of rearranging schedules, just kind of that constant change. This article is just one article. I mean, there's tons and tons of articles out there, along with teachers who I've talked to, who've contacted me and said, I've never contacted a board member in my 28 years, and I'm contacting you because I like the changes, the constant changes, the constant not knowing what's happening is part of COVID, but it's also thinking about the idea of what's technically called a collective trauma, that we're all going through a collective trauma right now. And so teachers need to have some of that social emotional support, which the district does provide, but having kind of more of that listening ear, having more understanding of this is hard to teach virtually. It's hard to teach virtually and in person, and the stress of what's happening is really kind of burning out teachers. I mean, again, this article, I don't know if you've had time to read it, but talking about that teachers are leaving the profession at an even higher rate now than they have in the past.
Is this article relating to Peoria Public Schools?
Not specifically, but in general. And then statewide also, there's articles statewide that are talking about teachers leaving the profession at a higher rate because of COVID, and so.
I just kind of wanted to understand what you meant by that, because I think the whole community is in the middle of a pandemic. And as far as stress is concerned, I think we've all been under that, including our parents and teachers, principals and assistant principals, and and so administration. I just think we've all been under the gun here. So we are, in the middle of a pandemic.
Absolutely.
And working through that. And I'm sorry to even ask you the question, but I wanted to also ask. There are schools, you're saying starting March 8th. That's going to provide hot lunches?
Yes.
And it's going to be through our system, our feeding, our system. So, okay, I just wanted to get that clear. Because maybe administration didn't know that. So, but anyway, I just wanted to get that clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for your.
Thank you, both of you. And I would say, overall, as we have meandered through this pandemic, we need to give ourselves credits, right? And not beat up on us, because we have done a nice job collectively. We've done a lot. We have fed over 500,000, and when everybody had retreated, Sodexo was there. That Friday in March, the governor shut it down. I had to go to Springfield that Saturday. I came back that Sunday, met in the boardroom, and we said, how are we going to feed our kids? We had 4 goals at the time, and I shared all of that with Dr. Rankin. Feed the children, the wellness of staff and students, communicating regularly with our families, and we had to build the stuff, and they were there. Anything we asked for, I said, the children need to be fed, and they're still doing that. We're not perfect. What can we do to improve this? And I appreciate the feedback. But, the community have just been so pleased with the progress Peoria Public Schools has made. 8,000 laptops were delivered to homes. Chief Boone is here. Oh, he was here earlier.
He's here.
Still here? SROs, all those medicines that were locked up in the buildings, they took that out. ROE and over 100 volunteers took food every day to our medically fragile families who could not leave. Salvation Army. I mean, we have, and we've worked nonstop, and we're not complaining. Everyone, you know what I'm saying? So why don't we accentuate the positive? There are 1,000 positives that I can share, and maybe a few negatives. And I don't even call them I call them opportunities for improvement. And overall, we spoiled. And my goal is always to spoil the staff at Peoria Public Schools. I think that's a good way to end. Thank you.
Oh,
I just,
okay, I had Mr. Costick, then Mr. Klaus.
Thank you. Dr. Crowd, my question is, with the current status of the lunches, is that just for the period of March 1st through the end of the year?
It's during COVID, because they were providing hot lunches, and I was hoping Mark Struman, I didn't think about it, to ask him to join us. And actually, one of the suggestions I have is to have him give a presentation to the board about, what they're doing. But they have, and I've had him meet with my superintendent roundtable kids. They've given him feedback regarding the lunches. And they have made a lot of improvements, and there's obviously, but once COVID hit, they had to sort of change their way of doing business. But traditionally, there's hot lunches provided. They even have chicken drumsticks. And I've always said I need to come down and purchase, because I can't get it free, purchase a lunch. And but when I was at Manual, I ate that lunch every day. That's where I ate lunch. So and you look at the menu, the menu for the month on the website. That's on the website. It was, but yes, ma'am, COVID, they've had to sort of switch because of,
Okay, my next question or concern is that as we look at it right now, COVID isn't going to end tomorrow. So when school resumes, and if I'm listening to Mr. Willis in regards to the infrastructure of the buildings and so forth, well, if COVID is still existing, we're still going to have the problem with trying to find ample space for children in the classrooms as well as, in the cafeterias. I guess my concern is that these children do, especially in the cold weather, they do need hot lunches. And if is there a way that we're going to try to fix that so that they are going to be able to have the hot lunches? Because we're not going to get any more spaces, so we've got to figure out a way in which these kids can get hot lunches, whether it's in the cafeterias, or in the classrooms or something. So, if there's money there to buy equipment that keeps the lunches hot, the big containers and things, that's what we need to do, because I think that's a big thing. That's a big thing with a lot of these parents. And if feeding the children was a high priority back in March, then it still is a high priority right now. And if children are not getting, we used to be very proud because we knew that our children would get a hot meal at least at school. And even though we do have COVID, I think that we've got to take those extra steps, those extra measures, in order to try and to find a way that we can still provide hot lunches for these children. I mean,
yeah. And I wanted Mark there because I wanted him to give a sense of what they're providing to the kids. So, Mr. Willis, are you still with us?
Yes. We can work on a follow-up. We can work on a follow-up report, most definitely.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kostick. And he's meeting with the team also, so I'll follow up with them as well. So that's the group, the food service group.
Okay, Mr. Klaus.
So is Mr. Willis our point man on the lunches going forward?
You can work through me because it's Mr. Willis, it's Mackenzie, and it's Mark. The four of us work together.
My concern is, obviously lunches need to be number one priority. Hot lunches every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's been just concerning with the cold lunches, but everyone's seen those. And while I would like to have that fixed by March 1st, my concern is that, you know, given any plans that we have, once we open doors on March 1st, there is going to be a massive amount of data coming from how do we do things, how do we change things quickly, and how do we pivot. And my concern is that I need to see a large amount of collaboration coming from administration and PFT moving forward.
We have that.
Well, because our teachers are the ones that are going through the processes that sometimes go underlooked. Something as simple as how can we line kids up outside of class, shift lunches by 10 to 15 minutes. Your class goes first, my class goes second. We walk our hot lunches back to the classroom. Those are going to be the nuggets of truth that we see coming from our schools. Richwoods is not the same as Manual, is not the same as Peoria High. And so those school site solutions are going to be coming from the teachers interacting with every student every single day. And so what I would just insist upon is that as we move forward, for the sake of the children, because we're all here for the same reason, that both sides are listened to, that we share ideas, and that this collaboration goes, you know, not, you know, at the expense of our own sense of perhaps pride. Because at the end of the day, we're looking for solutions very quickly for our students so that we can get back to as normal a school day as possible. Like Mr. Kotsick said, it's not going to be March 1st or April 1st, but we got to get these little things back because, again, like Mrs. Thomas brought up, you know, we've got 3 different levels in our math classrooms, and that is a big, big challenge that our teachers are going to be focused on. So we need to make sure that we've got the little things out of the way as quickly as possible so that we can empower the teachers to do what they need to do as we move forward.
Sounds good.
Other comments, questions on the return to school plan? Dr. Rankin,
I had one quickly.
and then then Mr. Walton.
I guess following up with what Mr. Klaus just said, how can, and this may not be an answer for tonight, but just kind of putting that question out there is how can we continue to have that collaboration with the administration, the board, and PFT to make sure that as we go back and as we have all of these little things, I think before March 1st, we need to have a clear plan of how we're going to continue to have that clear collaboration so that every 2 weeks we don't have Jeff standing up and telling us a list of things that weren't agreed upon during union bargaining, and that's how we find out about it. But I think kind of supporting what Mr. Klaus said is how can we make sure that there is that continual collaboration. Again, we don't need an answer tonight unless you feel like you have one, but I think that that's something that the board president and Dr. Karat and really thinking about how can we make sure that it's continuous during this weird time, during this unprecedented time, that it is really continuous.
Yeah, it's just really interesting in terms of, you know, some of the comments, but I think President Shaw and Vice President Wilson knows, and even Jeff and his team at the back of me will attest that, you know, there is collaboration going on. I meet with LPDC, just myself alone, the union, every other week. And we have agendas. So any item that they bring all of the items, whatever items that's happening for that week, we have discussions about it. So we have ongoing conversations. We text back and forth. If there are, and as Dr. Ike said, Dr. Wilson, my team, they're doing tons of, probably twice a week, having impact bargaining meetings, sometimes 2-3 hours in length. So we, you know, we need to know what's happening and not make these broad statements. that we are bargaining with them, and that's, that's one of my values in terms of collaboration from since I got here. And I don't think Jeff comes every 2 weeks, at the podium to talk about stuff. We heard, and we've talked about the food, and there's some, COVID kind of threw them off. And there's an opportunity for us, and Mick talked about that. He's meeting with them, and to talk about how hot lunches can be provided, so that, that's on the docket. And when we get feedback from the board, we take it back and, to the team and say, okay, what are the opportunities? So we're grateful for that, but we need to also recognize the work that's happening behind the scenes that you don't see. And I'll tell you, it's intense, and it's a lot.
Oh, I have Mr. Walden and Mrs. Ross.
Yeah, this one's more of a positive. I think the administration has done a really good job as far as the COVID testing and the antibodies and the things we've done, and I think that's been because of the leadership of you folks. My suggestion was, if you're listening from the board thing, was, and I know we didn't have Monica on tonight, but I think anything we could do to speed up getting the teachers tested, going back as soon as possible, I think would make the public feel better, would make the teachers better. We've got a lot of people that haven't been tested yet. And I know part of it is just a shortfall of vaccines, but I just think it would be important from a school board member saying that I would like the school to be as safe as possible, and if we can get our teachers vaccinated as soon as possible to go in there, that lets us tell parents that, we're doing the most that we can to do that. And I'm not short-rifting you at all, because I think you guys have done as much as you can. And I got a call from a school board member from Chatham, and he was asking about what we're doing here. And I said, you don't understand. I said, we're a very fortunate district. We have some things in testing that other school districts don't have. And we don't. We're very fortunate to have that. And so I'm not making that as a criticism that we don't. I would just say that as soon as we can speed up our teachers getting tested and going back, I think that's good for them, it's good for the school board, it's good for parents, it's a safety issue with the two. So.
Yep, thank you. And, I would say if anyone tells you that they've not been tested, send them to us, send them to actually Mr. Brook does a really nice job getting the information out. Initially, we used to get lots of emails, but that subsided quite a bit. I mean, he's not even getting emails. And
I was clear, I was vaccines. I didn't mean just testing. I just meant.
Yeah, and vaccines, that's what I'm referring to as well. And we're working very, very closely with Monica. She's like on speed dial. So I know this morning we sent out a link, Mr. Brooks sent out a link for anyone who needed a vaccination appointment. And so, yeah, I would say, and I'm happy that, I think earlier I said the health department put out a survey for Peoria County, and you can put your school district in. So we didn't have that data. It will be nice. So we're sort of, because it's a third party, right? And we're just kind of the middleman trying to help, making sure our teachers have the information. With the opening up of the pharmacies and the grocery stores, I think that has also helped quite a bit. But if anyone needs additional support, let us know, and we'll do everything we can to assist them in getting that vaccination as well. But I would say overall, as a system, I'm feeling good. It's not as stressed as it was earlier on when they had just introduced the vaccine and everybody was trying. They only had limit. Like last week, Monica said they're only getting 500 a week.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Ross?
Oh, I just wanted to follow up on that because the vaccine is an individual choice since it's not mandatory now.
Right.
And I know that there are people who don't really want to take it. But there, and you mentioned when you were mentioning testing, there are so many testing sites that everybody in this area should have had testing by now because they have testing sites everywhere. But I just want to make one comment about the meals. When we were shut down, that was the most efficient operation that I have ever seen. I picked up meals for a family of 3 every Monday and Thursday. And they had to, of course, warm it up themselves. So if we don't look at what happened in the past and work toward making it better in the future during this pandemic, I just think that, and they had some great entrees in there as well in those packets. Breakfast and lunch they gave to anybody that came up and asked for, food for children. At the school, at least 2 schools, I took some families some food every Thursday and Monday. So I just think it was very well done. Now, can we work on getting something better? Yeah, sure, but I'm concerned that, some schools kind of do what they want to do, and then others don't when it comes to the hot lunches. I want to know where that school is so I can see what they're doing. But that's all I had to say.
Yeah, and one of the things I was happy about, I don't know, one of the board members made the announcement, Mr. Burke, the 2 boxes of produce, what are they getting for that? What are they receiving? One time I saw they were getting milk and eggs and bananas and apples. But that was, I guess that was through, was that through a collaboration? Anyway.
Yeah, it's a collaboration with
Okay.
a group that helps, but
Okay.
it's essentially a jumbo-sized fresh food box that is available to our families to pick up on Thursdays, so. Yep.
Thank you, board. Good conversation, good feedback. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Karat.
Thank you, sir.
Moving to proposed expenditures over 2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none, we have report of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests. Dr. Karat.
Thank you, President Shaw. Since our board meeting report on February 8th, we have received 3 new requests. There were also 3 pending requests noted on February 8th. And to date, we have received 11 requests for the calendar year at a grand total of $550. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. We are now ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Wilson.
As President Shaw, the consent agenda consists of the following items. Item 1 is the school district. 2, payment for travel. 3, human resources report. 4, Heinz Safe Entry Project. 5, Heinz Safe Entry Abatement Project. 6, Employer Participation Agreement. 7, proposed renaming of Thomas Jefferson Primary School. And 8, agreement with Spirit Cultural Exchange. That's the entirety of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Are there any items board members wish to be pulled for a separate vote? Yes, Mrs. Costa. Number 7. Other items, Mr. Walden.
Number 8, sir.
Number 8, Mr. Walden. Other items. It's number 7 and 8. Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 7 and 8? Is there any discussion on the consent agenda on the items 1 through 6? Mr. Waller?
I didn't want to pull it, but if our financial director is there on the Heinz issues 4 and 5, when are they going to implement that? Is that going to be done at the end of the school year? I just want a clarification.
Is Mr. Willis available?
I am available.
Thank you. And did you hear the question?
I did not hear the question.
Are the Heinz projects going to be done after the school year, or they're going to be done during the school year?
After the school year.
After?
After.
Okay. That's all I need.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walter. It's been moved and seconded, and there's no discussion. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, is there a motion to accept item number 7?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Costick?
Okay. What I'd like to propose is that as an amendment to number 7, what I would like for us to look at is to, instead of just looking at one school and having to continually go back each time that we come up with another school, that we take all 6 schools right now and then make a decision as to, who goes first, who goes second, who's third, and so forth, utilizing the same protocol.
Okay, so the amendment is to open the process to all 6 schools, and the board would pick the sequence?
Of the schools, yes.
Okay.
And all 6 schools.
I would second that amendment.
Can I ask a question? Is
Okay,
it 6 or
okay.
7 schools?
6.
Just 6, okay.
Okay, so it's been moved, the amendment has been moved and seconded. Can we vote on the amendment? Excuse me, can we call the roll, please?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, so we've opened that process up for the schools in question. Okay. Is there a motion to accept item number 8?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Waller?
I just really needed a clarification. I bug Dr. Ike, I think, every meeting about how many teachers this is going to be, and I would just like to get some clarification, because I like one meeting when Dr. Ike says, Mr. Walter, we don't have any vacancies here. And so
We're working on it, Mr. Walter.
I know you are. And so I just wondered how many total people are we talking about this? As I understand it, it's not a cost to us at that, which was even a better thing with that, but do we have any idea of how many people are going to be involved?
Yeah, we appreciate the challenge, and we're definitely working on it. Dr. Ike, Dr. Bott also, and so with Spirit, is it 6? There were 7, and then 1 decided. So 6
that's good.
for that one, that group, it's 6, but we're also working with another group for 14 more. So, Doc, you want to add anything else to that? So for this group specifically, and Dr. Bott, are they, I think they're like science and mostly math and science, which are hard to fill.
Yeah. I just wanted a clarification of that.
Dr. Bott, you want to add anything?
Right. Okay.
And it doesn't cost us anything either,
Now they're very positive. I just want to get some clarification on that.
with the salaries of the teachers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Waller. Mrs. Ross?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. We've gone through this, well, I've gone through it before a couple of different times. Are we providing any housing and that kind of thing? Are we providing any of that?
We'll identify places that they can stay, but they'll be pretty much, right, Doc? They'll be pretty much on their own for, but there are a couple of individuals that we've identified, this apartment group and this.
Okay,
So we
'cause I
can,
just didn't want us, last time we got stuck with a whole bunch of.
yeah, you guys purchased houses.
we
We're
had
not
bought.
doing that.
That's correct, yeah.
We'll keep it very simple.
So, just wondering.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse me, Dr. Rankin.
Yeah, I just had a question of what Dr. Bott just said. When you said it was hard to fill positions, can you give me like a definition of what that means? Like what does that mean, a hard to fill position?
Dr. Ike?
Yeah, I was the math and science
And special ed?
and special
And I think actually foreign language.
Okay.
And those are all designated by the state too. I mean, positions that are open for years and you can't,
Other discussion on item 8?
and Dr. Rankin, nowadays, actually, all of the positions could be classified as.
This is true. Other discussion on item 8? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to the deliberation agenda, we have item 9, Title 9 Sexual Harassment Grievance Procedure. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 10, amendment to policy number 2:260, uniform grievance procedure. And is there a motion
So
to?
moved.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this policy amendment? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 11, amendment to policy 5:20, workplace harassment prohibited. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 12, amendment to policy 7:20, students bullying and harassment policy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
And item 13?
Yes, I move that the expulsion with the expulsion held in advance be accepted as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Walter?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Shaw?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
And moving on to presentations and suggestions by board members. Do we have any input? Seeing none, reports from board committees. Vice President Wilson.
Thank you, President Shaw. The policy committee will next meet March 17th at 3:30.
Thank you, Vice President Wilson. Other committees?
Buildings and Grounds. Our next meeting is set for the 20th. Was it the 20th?
I don't have it.
I believe it's set for the 20th. I think that's what I have written down.
March 20th?
March 20th.
Okay.
Is that the building committee?
Mm-hmm.
Buildings committee.
Yeah.
Building and grounds.
It was not buildings and grounds. Buildings
Just Building Committee.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
committee. I keep hearing that.
Thank you.
Kind of goes hand in hand, which is kind
Thank you. Other committees? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.